the truth, that mail-in ballots is the biggest problem in our elections.
Mail-in ballots are the biggest problem in our elections. So Marjorie Taylor Greene jumping full speed ahead into the fraud element. And she says, listen, all these right-wing pollsters told us there was going to be a red wave. Now there wasn't. It must have been fraud. It must have been fraud. And then here is January 6th riot organizer Ali Alexander saying that he's going to will Kari Lake to win. This was just yesterday morning. Hours later, she lost.
Even if Kari was going to lose, I would will it into existence. And I know that sounds kooky.
Yes.
And I know that sounds crazy.
Yes.
But just don't catch me on a wild day. Pete Davidson one time got on my bad side.
Yeah.
And almost killed himself. So.
What?
You're not going to believe me. It doesn't matter. The point is that no one needs to believe you the first time. The point is you just need to tell them a first time.
Okay.
Do you understand this?
No.
This is going to sound kooky for y'all and cozy, but you guys don't understand the esoteric.
Oh.
What if I told you that all of us are capable of traveling? Well, not all of us, because you're not smart enough, but what if I told you that there are a lot of people capable of time traveling? They just don't know it. What if I told you that time traveling is easier than you think?
Yep. Well, this is exactly the caliber of person that was supporting Kari Lake. So, you know, whether it's because it was willed or prayed for or someone traveled forward in time or back in time, Kari Lake has lost and we can all rejoice. It is a bullet dodged. Huge work to be done over the next 2 years. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. A lot of people, 3.2 million last month, watched our videos, didn't subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 2 million, and we will take a very quick break and be back after this. The science tells us that one of the best ways to get consistent deep sleep is lowering your core body temperature. When your body stays cooler at night, you're more comfortable and your sleep is better. Our sponsor, Sleep Me, is the home of Chili Sleep, the customizable climate-controlled sleep solutions that can improve your sleep by keeping you cooler at night. There are 3 different Chili Sleep systems. There's the Ooler, the Cube, and the new Dock Pro with double the cooling power. All 3 systems are water-based, temperature-controlled mattress toppers that fit over your existing mattress to provide you with your ideal sleep temperature. You can go as cool as 55 degrees. You can go really hot if you want. I keep mine at 60, beautiful temperature for me. Don't wake up hot and sweaty. Chili Sleep keeps me asleep all night. It feels great. I didn't know it was possible to love sleeping even more than I already did. Go to sleep.me/Pacman to learn more and get 25% off your new Chili Sleep system. Click on our Chili Sleep link in the podcast notes to start staying cool at night. I love cooking at home. I cook all the time. Having a good set of knives that you actually like to use is really important. For years, I have been a fan of the advantages that Japanese knives offer. And our sponsor, Kamikoto, makes amazing Japanese steel kitchen knives using the traditional techniques that date back to the Edo period of Japan. Kamikoto only uses steel from Japan. Each blade takes years to craft and goes through a rigorous 19-step inspection process with a lifetime guarantee. The knives come in a beautiful heavy-duty ash wood box, makes it a really great gift, easy to store as well. On the Kamikoto website, you can see a map of the Michelin star chefs all over the world using Kamikoto knives. My Kamikoto knives at home have been performing great for years. You really just can't beat the feel of a nice Japanese knife, perfectly balanced in your hand. And Kamikoto is now running a big Black Friday sale. My audience gets an extra $50 off. Go to kamikoto.com/Pacman and use the code Pacman. That's KAMIKOTO.com/Pacman. Use code Pacman for an extra $50 off. The info is in the podcast notes. All right, give you a quick update on the Herschel Walker, Raphael Warnock runoff. December 6th, of course, in Georgia. This will determine not who controls the Senate. Democrats have taken control of the Senate. It is currently 50-49, but that race, that runoff will determine, is it a 50-50 Senate for 2 years where Kamala Harris is the tie-breaking vote for Democrats, or will Democrats have a 51-49 majority, which at least takes care of Joe Manchin or Kyrsten Sinema, without requiring Kamala Harris's tie-breaking vote. Herschel Walker continues to speak, and it becomes increasingly clear every time he does that he doesn't have any idea what is going on. Herschel Walker held, it's truly beyond parody at this point in time. Walker held an event in which I think he's trying to attack Raphael Warnock here, but he really is criticizing himself. You'll see what I mean in a moment. Here in this first clip, Herschel Walker addressing the issue of keeping one's own kids.
And then he even paid himself for child care, all that stuff. Why don't he keep his own kids? Don't have nobody to keep your kids. You keep your kids. Then you got somebody else keeping. I keep my own, even though he lied about me. But it's okay. It's okay because he's trying to get your vote. Don't let him trick you try to get your vote.
What is Herschel Walker talking about right there? Is Herschel Walker saying that Raphael Warnock should parent his children? Because one of the things we learned about Herschel Walker is that he's been an absent father to multiple kids. Or am I trying to make more sense of it than we can make? Listen to this again. What is he talking about?
And then he even paid himself for child care, all that stuff. Why don't he keep his own kids? Don't have nobody to keep your kids. You keep your kids. Then you got somebody else keeping. I keep my own, even though he lied about me. But it's okay. It's okay because he's trying to get your vote. Don't let him trick you try to get your vote.
How can you hear that and think that's someone who should be making decisions about what our tax rates should be? That's somebody who I would want to be one of 100 votes for the entire country as to decisions on foreign policy. It just doesn't make any sense. Literally, it doesn't make any sense. Here's one more clip at another event where Herschel Walker yesterday is, I guess I don't even know how to report on this. I guess he's trying to make the case that he would be a good senator. Fundamentally, that's what this is about. And he attacked the green agenda and said that we should continue having gas guzzling cars. And it's not clear whether he doesn't understand gas guzzling is a pejorative or whether he likes it. You know, some of these people love the idea of damaging the environment. They sort of take pride in it. They say it's manly and patriotic. Listen to this. And again, try to make heads or tails out of it.
I can promise you, Iran, Russia, and they're not talking about trying to charge a tank out in the desert. They're talking about war. And let me tell you this even. If we was ready for the green agenda, I'll raise my hand right now, but we're not ready right now. So don't let them fool you like this is a new agenda. This is not the new.
It's time for Nicole Sandler's What's News from NicoleSandler.com and the Progressive Voices Network.
Congratulations to Arizona's governor-elect, Katie Hobbs. Yes, the Democratic Secretary of State of Arizona narrowly beat the Republican, Kari Lake, a former TV news anchor endorsed by the former guy. Hobbs saying via Twitter, "Democracy is worth the wait. Thank you, Arizona. I am so honored and so proud to be your next governor." Her challenger, Republican Kari Lake, had repeatedly said she would not have certified Joe Biden's win in Arizona in 2020 and began baselessly sowing doubts about the governor's race before it was called. So, as expected, Lake declined to concede, instead choosing to self-own on Twitter by tweeting, quote, "Arizonans know BS when they see it." Well, yes, Ms. Lake, they absolutely do. Arizona is among 4 states that flipped control of governorships, along with Maryland and Massachusetts for the Democrats and Nevada for Republicans. Meanwhile, as of early Tuesday morning, Republicans are within 1 seat of securing a majority in the House of Representatives. So it's likely that even by the time you hear this report on Tuesday, that the Republicans may have clinched the majority. But the Associated Press reporting that the GOP, quote, will likely have the narrowest majority of the 21st century. If they got to win, this is the way to do it, right? Meanwhile, the Supreme Court voted 7-2 on Monday not to block the House Select Committee investigating January 6th from obtaining the phone records of Arizona Republican Party Chair Kelly Ward. Ward, one of those fake electors lined up by Trump and his allies to subvert the results of the election, had argued that disclosing her phone and text records would subject everyone she communicated with after the election to scrutiny, which she said would chill public participation in partisan politics. Oh, please. Well, Justice Elena Kagan last month temporarily blocked the subpoena pending a review by the full court. And yesterday, the full court, by a 7-2 margin, said, yeah, turn over the phone records. So who dissented? Well, as you'd expect, Justice Clarence Thomas, who should have recused himself because of a conflict of interest. By the way, this is the second time Thomas moved to hamper the committee's investigation into efforts to overturn that election in which his wife, Ginny Thomas, played a role. Just saying. Alito was the other no vote, in case you were wondering. So the lame duck session is in full swing, and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is moving ahead on advancing legislation to codify same-sex marriage. He filed cloture on Monday on the Respect for Marriage Act, setting up an initial vote for Wednesday. This bill would require at least 60 votes, but the bipartisan group working on it says they're confident they have the support needed. A disappointing story in the midst of all this good election news. Federal prosecutors on Monday said they would not charge former New York City mayor and longtime Trump ally Rudy Giuliani for his work with Ukrainian figures during the Trump administration. This ends a more than year-long investigation that appeared to be focused on whether Giuliani acted as an unregistered foreign agent in 2019 and 2020 as he pushed Ukraine to investigate the business dealings of Hunter Biden. Giuliani said the decision vindicated him. Oh, please. What up, DOJ? I sure would like an answer on this. Meanwhile, President Biden, overseas for the G20 talks, voiced his opposition to China's, quote, coercive and increasingly aggressive actions during a meeting with Xi Jinping. This was Biden's first in-person talks with Xi since taking office. Biden said after the meeting that the two countries should compete vigorously, but added, I'm not looking for conflict. I absolutely believe there need not be a new Cold War pitting the U.S. against China. Xi stressed during the meeting in Indonesia that Taiwan is, quote, the first red line that must not be crossed in China-U.S. relations. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is also front and center at the G20. President Volodymyr Zelensky presented a 10-point peace plan to end the invasion in a video speech to the leaders yesterday. The steps include a path to nuclear safety, food security, and a special tribunal for alleged Russian war crimes. Zelensky also urged G20 leaders to use all their power, quote, to make Russia abandon nuclear threats. And he called on Moscow to stop bombing Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Here at home, police in Henrico County, Virginia, on Monday arrested the suspect in a shooting that left 3 University of Virginia football players dead and another 2 students wounded. The attack occurred on a charter bus that had just returned to campus from a field trip. University of Virginia President Jim Ryan identified the dead as Lavelle Davis Jr., Devin Chandler, and Deshaun Perry. The shooter, also a UVA student, was on the football team back in 2018. The school had been investigating him for claiming he owned a gun. Oh, man. At least 68 shootings on U.S. school grounds have already occurred this year. That includes 15 on college campuses. And finally, the former guy intends to announce another White House run tonight at Mar-a-Lago, despite pleas from top party officials and many of his aides to hold off. And that's just a bit of what's news for now. I'm Nicole Sandler. If you appreciate these reports and the Nicole Sandler Show, I hope you'll consider making a contribution. My work is 100% listener supported, and I can't do it without your help. Find out more at NicoleSandler.com, and please click on that donate button.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
We are now projecting that Democratic Secretary of State Katie Hobbs is, in fact, the winner in the Arizona gubernatorial race. This will make her the Democratic governor of that state. She has, according to our projections, vanquished Kari Lake, local TV news personality who mounted an incredibly strong campaign. Katie Hobbs was the only statewide elected Democrat. She was the Secretary of State. She ran for governor, and it looks like she will be the next governor in Arizona. Steve?
Well, that's why I was kind of stalling for time here, because I had
everyone, we all understand.
I had a very strong feeling this was coming, and I was running out of ways to say it without saying it. But yes, this was an advantage of over 20,000 votes, with Maricopa now pretty much exhausted in terms of remaining ballots.
Oh! Yay! All right, so this is I guess proof that there are fewer Arizonans with heat stroke than we thought, or that Kari Lake was counting on. Fewer Arizonans have sunstroke. Fewer Arizonans, brains are baked. But now Arizona has a Democratic governor and 2 Democratic senators. Oh, my God. Well, that includes Kirsten Sinema. So, hey, we have to improve the quality of Democratic senators. And now we can. It's called a primary. Just saying. So this is an amazing moment, because obviously we retained the Senate yesterday. Today we see all of these crazy Trump election deniers, hit the road, and don't you come back no more, right? And Kari Lake, not only is she a world-class election denier, which was annoying and bizarre, but she's also really nasty. She's just a nasty, aggressive election denier, liar, loser. So, listen, there's something cathartic about watching her lose. There's something wonderful about seeing, democracy survive this. There's something wonderful about seeing, the just desserts be meted out to those who deserve them. I don't know if you know this, but Kari Lake was a Democrat. She was. 20 years she was an anchor in Phoenix, and then I guess she got bored doing the same thing every single day. I get that. I totally get that. And then Trump came down the pike, and I think she got excited and thought there was an opportunity for her to do something completely non-factual, completely, bullcrap, something that you can't get away with on television news, right? And she went for it big time bad, and decided to become a Trump acolyte, and an election denier. And, obviously America isn't having it. America is done with this, bullcrap. America understands that denying that a free and fair election is possible in the United States of America is insulting. But it didn't stop her. I mean, I can't even imagine what it would be like to work for her yesterday and have to tell her that she lost. But some of the reporting, and I don't know how accurate it is, but, some of the reporting said that her advisors were telling her, don't storm the castle. Don't storm the castle. No, just stand outside of it and yell some absolutely crap crazy stuff, which is what she did. It's what she did. She started screaming, the election was botched, and it was a mockery, and it wasn't free and fair, right?
I don't believe that people of Arizona would vote for her and that she would win. But if that's what happens at the end of the day, how do you certify an election that is this botched? And she's the one that would certify her own election where it was botched, where the machines didn't work in more than a third of the polling centers. I don't know how we remedy this. But the people of Arizona are furious. They're reaching out to us by the thousands saying, I don't think my vote even was counted. I didn't even get a chance to vote. There were so many hoops to jump through. I had to go because my daughter had a track meet, or my work wasn't going to give me 4 hours off, 6 hours off to vote. It's outrageous what happened. We had lines that were 3 and 4 hours long in retirement areas where people were old. And all of this happened in Republican areas. My area where I was going to vote, the printer didn't work. There wasn't enough toner in the printer. So I went to a liberal part of town and got right in and out in about 15 minutes. It's funny how that works.
Yeah, I think everybody remembers the day that I went to vote in person in Palm Beach County, and it took me all day all day to vote, all day, because I had been scrubbed. I had been removed from the registration rolls, and I had to go cross town to the supervisor's office and explain to them that I had voted in every single solitary election, every single one, including primaries, including local, including you name it, I voted. And they ran back there, after I waited in miles-long lines to vote, and then miles-long lines at the supervisor's office because so many people were having a difficult time, being recognized as a legitimate voter. I guess this was 2016. And so finally they said, oh, yeah, we just ran your record. You do vote in every single election. We're sorry. You're okay. You can vote. And I said, okay, I'd like to vote. No, you can't vote at the supervisor's office on Election Day. What? No, the supervisor's office, you can vote, but not on Election Day. And today is Election Day, so now you have to go back across town and you have to go to your precinct and you have to cast your ballot there, which I did, and it took me all damn day to do it, all damn day. That is not the case in Arizona. Yes, there was some problem with toner and printer, so you know what you're supposed to do in that case? You know what people were told to do in that case? They were told, go ahead and vote and then take your paper ballot and drop it in the box, and we'll count it like we count paper. But she didn't want to do that. She wanted to make it into a thing because apparently if she lost, she could point to that thing and say it wasn't a free and fair election. But yes, that did happen. And it's true that they ran out of some toner in some printers, in some precincts, and they told people, go ahead and vote and drop it in the box. But she didn't want to drop it in the box. So now, of course, the whole election is rigged. The whole election was a mockery. It was stolen.
What's going to happen when we hear about this vote dump in about, I don't know, minutes? It could be. Carrie.
I don't know. We think we should be in good shape. There's look at my notes, 158,000 ballots that have not been counted yet. And 94,000 of those are in Maricopa County, where they took our sacred vote. And they just made a mockery of it. It's outrageous, Jesse, what happened. I had a man come up to me at breakfast yesterday and said, I showed up to vote. There was a 3-hour line. They said the tabulator machines were not working. I drove across the way and went to another 15-minute drive to another center, and the printers weren't working. They had no toner in them. I drove another 20 minutes and finally voted. It was a half-a-day odyssey to
Well, what your timeline there just said that it was a 35-minute odyssey. I don't listen. Ding dong, the witch is dead. Okay, she's done unless she shows up and she becomes Veep material or the Trump campaign. Because tonight Donald Trump is going to announce something. Now, he has authorized his advisors to tell the media that he's going to announce for the presidency, that he's going to announce that he's running in 2024. He hasn't even won 2020. I mean, he just lost 2022. How is he running in 20? I don't know. Okay, but this is so speaking of losers, he's going to announce tonight that he's running for 2024 to get a head start on losing the next election, number 4. I guess. I don't know. But he has about as much chance of winning in 2024 as he does of winning in 2020. The Oakland Raiders have a better chance of winning the Super Bowl. And yes, I know the Oakland Raiders aren't in Oakland anymore. That's the whole point. That's the point. There's no chance. You understand? But some people aren't completely down with the idea that he's going to announce for president. There is some rumors or some whispering going on that what he's going to do is he's going to announce that he wants to be the Speaker of the House because all his election deniers lost in the swing states, right? In the Wisconsins and the Pennsylvanias, the Arizonas. So maybe he does it from the House.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
If you're like me, you're probably a bit frustrated with the state of our political system today. So why does American democracy look the way it does? And how can we make it more responsive to the people it was formed to serve? Democracy Decoded, a podcast by Campaign Legal Center, examines our government and discusses innovative ideas that could lead to a stronger, more transparent, accountable, and inclusive democracy. In season 2, Host Simone Leeper covers everything you need to know about voting in the U.S. She speaks with experts from across the country and voters representing impacted communities about the deliberate barriers to voting that exist today. And she asks, how can we make our voting systems more inclusive? Because our democracy works best when every voter can participate. Listen to the latest season at democracydecoded.org or wherever you get your podcasts. democracydecoded.org.
America's political, corporate, and media establishments were cocksure about their prognostications that a powerful red wave was about to hit America in this month's elections. It would sweep Democrats out and push Republicans into office all across America, they exclaimed. How shocking and embarrassing, then, that their raging wave turned out to be just a little ripple. Republicans ran poorly and many Democrats ran well. Still, the Democratic Party as a whole should have done better if its Don't Rock the Boat leadership had been gutsier, more progressive, and, yes, more democratic. Well, murmured the party's Washington hierarchy, we can't get too far ahead of the people. Really? Why not ask the people themselves? That's the virtue of the ballot initiative system. It allows grassroots groups to put issues up for a vote, rather than letting the public agenda be controlled by a clique of lobbyists, legislators, and party line followers. This year, there were 132 of these initiatives on the ballots in 37 states, and more on local ballots. And vote after vote showed that the people are way ahead of the political insiders in support of strong progressive policies. By big margins, 3 states said to hell with a Republican Supreme Court enshrining women's abortion rights in their state constitutions. South Dakota, supposedly a right-wing bastion, shoved their GOP governor and legislators aside to expand Medicaid health coverage to the state's low-income families. In bright red Nebraska, nearly 60% of voters said yes to a $15 minimum wage. A big majority in Illinois amended the state constitution to guarantee collective bargaining rights for workers. 70% of New Mexico voters made funding of early childhood education a constitutional requirement. This is Jim Hightower saying, for more information, go to ballotpedia.org.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 2014. That was the day 4 workers were killed and a 5th injured during a chemical leak at a DuPont insecticide plant near Houston, Texas. The plant used methyl mercaptan in its production of insecticides. 24,000 pounds of the deadly chemical were released through 2 valves in a poorly ventilated building on site. The U.S. Chemical Safety Board found numerous flawed safety procedures, design problems, and inadequate planning. Days earlier, liquid methyl mercaptan had solidified in piping, causing a blockage. Workers attempted to clear it by spraying the pipes with hot water. They didn't realize they had cleared the blockage, which then created a high-pressure buildup of the chemical in other piping. When 2 workers went to drain those pipes in a routine procedure, they were overcome by toxic vapors. Another 2 workers answering the subsequent distress call were also killed. DuPont blamed the workers for the release of the...
Don't give up hope. Don't give up what's true.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Between the McCain Republicans and the Trump Republicans, a fierce battle we've seen over a couple of different cycles. One of the Republicans in this state said that Kari Lake told a legion of John McCain supporters across Arizona that they could go to hell. Tonight, they returned the favor.
She has told them to go to hell.
Boy, Arizona has delivered some losers, haven't they? We don't have any McCain Republicans in here, do we? All right, if you get the hell out.
Yeah, bye-bye, Carrie. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Okay, good. Done. All right, Patsy in Tennessee.
Yes, this is the first time I've called you. I've been listening for a long time.
Hi.
But I could not let this Kari Lake thing pass. She just said that she voted or tried to vote in 3 different places.
Yeah.
Went to 3 different polling stations. How did she do that when I'm only allowed to go to one?
That is interesting, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what their laws are. I don't know if you can vote just about anywhere. I don't know. So.
Well, I just thought that was really strange.
Hey, man, she is really strange. And, she's so aggressive and so nasty with so little to back it up. You know what I mean? Just so little.
Yeah.
She's just a bully bitch. She's just a nasty,
sure
nasty, nasty person. But it felt great to watch her, just, crumble and fall apart.
I'm so glad she lost. I wish I could have voted against her, but I live in Tennessee, so.
I hear you. Well, honestly, you're probably drowned out by, red staters. So,
yes.
Yeah, keep doing it. Keep going and keep telling.
Okay. I will.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure. All right. Bob in Oklahoma.
Hey, Randy.
Hi.
Hey, music to my ears. Yeah, nurses rock. I have to say that. And what my point is today, watching the news and listening to the White House response to what's going on over in Poland, the Russian aggression, it's just nuts. And I don't know if we're going to get a straight story about it.
Okay, so we haven't even talked about it. We haven't gotten there yet. So for those of you who don't know what's going on, what happened here today is Russia launched about 100 missiles aimed at Ukrainian power stations and grids and all this, trying to, destroy their ability to heat and to have electricity and to have clean water during the winter, right? And this is all in response to being kicked out of Kherson, right? Kherson, however you say. And so one of their missiles that they were aiming at Lviv, I'm guessing, went stray and landed in a farm in Poland, which is a NATO ally. Poland is a NATO ally. And 2 people died on this farm in Poland, right? And so this is now the G20 is still together, as you know, in Bali, Indonesia. But it's 4:00 in the morning there. And so everybody's just getting the news. And I promise you this, Bob, that right now, Vlad and Biden and Duda from Poland, they're all on a deconfliction line trying to figure out, how to get this under control, because this is why you don't launch 100 missiles, okay?
Yeah. But they were launched, nonetheless.
They were launched. Now, if it were me, because I have such a emotional connection to Ukraine, I would just go ahead and bomb the entire Black Fleet, the Black Sea Fleet, where all these missiles are being launched. But of course, we don't live in that world, right? We don't.
No.
So, they're trying to figure out how to respond. Now, Zelensky is a very smart guy. So, if I were him, what I would do, if I were Poland, who had to absorb all these fleeing Ukrainians, and you saw how Poland greeted the Ukrainians. They fed them, they welcomed them, they housed them, they sheltered them, they, told them, don't worry, we got you, we got your pets, we got your families, come here. But if I know, Zelensky and Duda and what they want out of this, I would tell you that they're going to say to NATO, why don't you tell Putin that there's no way he could fight NATO. He could barely fight Ukraine, right? So the morality of the army is down below zero. His army is not trained. So he can't fight NATO. So what I would do, okay, if I were Zelensky, is I would say, you know what, this is my opportunity. Here's what we want. You tell Putin that NATO is going to group together and retaliate for you striking a NATO allied country unless you pull out of Donetsk, you get the hell out of Crimea, you get the hell out of Ukraine completely, and then we'll go to the peace talks.
Yeah. Negotiations are essential, and I think it's important to try to save as much of the natural world that's left so we can keep growing food and forest on it.
Well, if you want to save the natural world, then truly you really need Putin to stop bombing it.
Exactly.
Okay. So that's one way that you could go about it, is to tell him you cannot possibly counter NATO. Okay. You couldn't counter us. You couldn't survive us. You wouldn't live through it. Nobody would be okay. It would be a disaster for you. That's worse than everything you're going through already. I mean, right now, Putin is supposed to give, you know, that Putin has these crazy, off the chain, press conferences every year where he sits on TV for like hours and hours and hours and hours. And he does it every single year. Well, this year they're talking about not doing it for the first time in 10 years because he can't save face. Okay. The guy is an abject, autocrat. He is a person who, bullied another country. He invaded a neighbor without any plan, without any ability to take the neighbor, to, hold the neighbor, whatever. And he made a mess. He made a complete and total mess. And he has, caused shame on Russians. He has, put them through sanctions and a whole lot of other, headaches, right? So, he's kind of cooked. And the only thing to do is now to say all of NATO is united. Finland and Sweden are united with us. You have no ability to protect any border that you have with anybody anymore. And so what you're going to do is you're going to leave Ukraine. You're going to leave Crimea. You're going to leave the Donetsk region. You're going to leave every single place that you occupy in Ukraine. And then you're going to go to the peace talks and everything will be beautiful. It's all I can think of now. So that's what's going on in Ukraine, Poland. Idiot Boy actually did launch 100 missiles this morning, 100 of them, aimed at, every single power grid he could aim at, everything from Lviv to Kiev, all the way across the central portion of Ukraine, the eastern portion of Ukraine, the western portion of Ukraine, and he missed. He missed, and one of his missiles straight into Poland, and it landed on a farm, and 2 people did get killed, and that's unfortunate for him, if you ask me.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
This is Stephanie Miller, and here's what you missed.
They're saying could be a Category 1 by the end of the day. However, let me tell you what is the storm, that red wave. I'm telling you, if there's any indication based upon what we're seeing this morning, somebody made a surfboard, said the red wave is coming.
Oh, boy.
This whole show has been of me being Muttley.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, where's our surf music, Chris?
Oh, okay.
Cowabunga.
Surf's up. Cowabunga. How's that red wave going? You know what the wave is? Me drinking mega salty tears. Oh, they're so delicious. Oh, you're pouring more?
I think this is the wrong song. We should have used Wipeout.
I'm not driving. You know what I did yesterday? I don't ever do it. I watched Fox News. Oh my God, I've never had so much fun in my whole... You know, I can't. I'm too tender.
Oh,
I make
know.
you do it. I can't do it.
You did it for a change, huh?
Oh, I did.
Is it heaven? Was it everything you hoped it would be?
I never thought I would enjoy Fox News so much. Oh, it was fantastic. Oh, it was better than sex. It was fantastic. Okay. I might not be able to speak. Did I mention we won the Senate? Oh, God. Okay.
The Herschel Walker race is going to get real fun right now.
Oh, my God. Has he already roadkill? Have they left poor Herschel at the bus stop?
There's a really good chance that we could come out of this with even more senators than we had before.
I know. We beat.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm having way too much fun. Oh, my God. I'm going to be, if you think this is insufferable, I'm just getting warmed up because what have I said? What have I said? Same thing. Michael Moore, Jody Hamilton are saying we're going to win the House. You just wait. Hear all this and more on the next Stephanie Miller Show.
911, what's your emergency?
America's healthcare system is broken and people are dying.
Welcome to Code Whack, where we shine a light on America's callous healthcare system, how it hurts us, and what we can do about it. I'm your host, Brenda Gazzar. This time on Code Whack, what pitfalls does Medicare Advantage pose? And what is the Medigap trap that many people are unwittingly falling into? To find out, we spoke to Diane Archer, founder and president of Just Care USA, an independent digital media hub covering health and financial issues facing boomers and their families.
As a general rule, in almost every state but 4, if you want to switch to traditional Medicare, once you've been in Medicare Advantage for more than 12 months, you have no right to buy supplemental coverage. In traditional Medicare, you get that coverage from the doctors you want to see when you want to see them. Pretty great. There's an issue, though. You need supplemental insurance to fill gaps in traditional Medicare, and that costs about $2,500 a year. You don't have a right to that insurance except when you first enroll in Medicare at 65. And so if you join a Medicare Advantage plan and stay more than 12 months, then you no longer have that right to buy Medicare supplemental coverage, except in New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Maine. So that means that you're locked into your Medicare Advantage plan at a time when you want access to specialists who are not perhaps in the network that your Medicare Advantage plan covers.
A full Code Whack story on ProgressiveVoices.com and on the PV app. Catch all our episodes by subscribing to Code Whack wherever you find your podcast. This podcast is powered by Heal California, a nonprofit that uplifts the voices of those fighting for healthcare reform around the country. Until next time.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Look, covered Kari Lake for the better part of the last year and a half here, and I think it was perhaps fitting to be here across from Mar-a-Lago today. I finally flew yesterday from Arizona here, and essentially, though, I felt like it was covering Donald Trump's campaign of 2024, but in Arizona over the last year. She predicated her campaign on trying to sell the big lie and trying to sell the conspiracy theories. When she wonders how she lost this race, look at it. This is the third election cycle in a row in which Arizonans rejected Trumpism. In the final week of her campaign, who did she campaign alongside? She campaigned alongside Steve Bannon. She campaigned alongside one of the chief promoters of Pizzagate. She campaigned alongside an individual who promoted the notion of the war on white people. She campaigned alongside State Senator Wendy Rogers, who just earlier this year was here in Florida speaking at a white nationalist conference, somebody who frequently spews anti-Semitism. This is an individual who just last week called her Democratic opponent a pervert. This is an individual who suggested there should be perp walks for elections officials, criminal charges against individuals who oversaw COVID response in 2020 in Arizona. This is an individual who's celebrating putting a dagger into the, quote, the McCain machine. She asserted that Cindy McCain wants to end America. She called Mike Lindell one of the great patriots of our time. She said Dinesh D'Souza is one of the greatest patriots in America. She suggested Paul Gosar was the kind of lawmaker our founding fathers envisioned. She called the media the right hand of the devil, the scourge of the earth. If that doesn't sound like Donald Trump, I don't know what does. And ultimately, the big question was she going to be able to make that sell here? And the answer is no, according to Arizona voters. And when you look at that slate of election deniers, from Tudor Dixon to Tim Michaels to Jim Marchant in Nevada to Mark Fincham, she was the latest one to fall, essentially making it a clean sweep of those not only election denier gubernatorial candidates and Secretary of State candidates. And now Donald Trump is going to go and try to run on the very message that all these folks lost on.
So that's Vaughn Hilliard from NBC News. That was an incredible list of white supremacist, conspiracy theorist, QAnon-based garbage that she spewed, and this is all a piece of the message that the election denier crowd, the Donald Trump, the Trumpiest of the Trump, lost on. This is what they ran on, and this is what they lost on. Now, I do want to tell you that because Donald Trump didn't get Jim Marchant, didn't get Fincham in Arizona to be Secretary of State, lost all these, Secretaries of State offices, so that he can't he can't control, let's put it that way, who certifies a free and fair election in 2024 when he obviously wants his name at the top of the ticket, right, as the Republican nominee for the presidency yet again, right? And so if Donald Trump can't control the certification process at the state level, wouldn't it be interesting and frightening? I had this conversation with Brett when he came into work today. We were sitting there. We were talking about, Poland and the NATO thing. We talked about Kari Lake, and then we talked about Donald Trump announcing tonight. And the sickest part of it is, I said to him, have you heard any of these rumors that Donald Trump might be interested in being Speaker of the House? Because you don't have to be a member of the House to be Speaker. Little factoid, little piece of information that, somebody like me can pull out of her, bra when needed. But it's true. You don't need to be a member of the House to be the Speaker of the House. And so wouldn't it be something if Donald Trump is considering announcing tonight, not just that he's running for the presidency, but that he's going to throw his name into the mix for the next Speaker of the House so that he can then deny the certification process from the inside this time? Remember, we all know that, he wanted to go to Capitol Hill. He was, very interested in getting up there and leading the charge and leading the overthrow of the government the last time, right? That's what Cassidy Hutchinson testified to. That's what the Secret Service had to go and tell the January 6th committee members whether or not that was true. And of course, we weren't privy to what they said. Okay, but we do know Cassidy Hutchinson testified to the grand jury in Georgia. And today, this is really interesting. Brian Kemp, now that the election is over, and Brian Kemp, who was the Secretary of State in Georgia, he was the Secretary of State in Georgia when Stacey Abrams and he ran against each other. Now, for some reason, Kari Lake doesn't find that appalling, right? But she does find it completely disgusting and shocking that Katie Hobbs is going to, that Katie Hobbs is the Secretary of State of Arizona and will certify her own election, right?
All right, apparently they did have a drop in Arizona, and Fox is projecting that Democratic Secretary of State, who should have recused herself, Katie Hobbs, has been elected governor of Arizona.
Oh, that was so great to watch, the pained expression on his face. She should have recused herself. Kemp did not recuse himself until after he won, and then he recused himself so he didn't certify his own election. Katie Hobbs might do the same, right? But because of the certification and because of January 6th and because you now know how Donald Trump was going to make himself president again, even though he lost the Electoral College, and that was by refusing to certify the results of the election, wouldn't it be something if Donald Trump actually tonight says that he wants to be considered to be the next Speaker of the House so that he can deny certification of the 2024 election from the inside? I mean, listen, Jamie Raskin, on the Sunday shows, Jamie Raskin was on, and, I heard him say this. Part.
One potential candidate whose name has been floated is Donald Trump himself, because the Speaker of the House does not have to be a member of the House.
Right.
And they are talking about putting Trump right there.
Right there, right? Okay, so that's the short version of it. But here's his entire... This is Jamie Raskin, all the stuff that he sees, that he knows. And Jamie Raskin's brilliant, as you know, right?
Election deniers didn't prevail in the key battlegrounds, but CBS tallied it, and at least 155 House Republicans in the new Congress have raised unfounded doubts about the validity or integrity of the 2020 election. These are going to be your colleagues that you will be working with. What change is that going to affect in the work you do?
Well, that's a statement about the political contamination of the GOP by Donald Trump. And again, Kevin McCarthy and other leaders within the Republican Party are now required to make a decision about whether they're going to try to rid themselves of Donald Trump and his toxic influence on the party.
But these 155 House Republicans are his constituency. Kevin McCarthy, if he wants to be leader, will need to consider.
Yes.
Well,
it's a real problem for Kevin McCarthy now, because there are certain pro-Trumpists within his House caucus who refuse to accept that he's really with Trump, and they want to get rid of McCarthy. And some of them, they have names very early in the alphabet, like Biggs, and they might just vote for Trump when they, take the roll call for Speaker. So we know that the hard right Freedom Caucus people are in search of another candidate. And
they are in search of another candidate. And today, Andy Biggs said that he was going to run for Speaker, but, not really. Not really. But everybody is telling people on the, that the right flank, the election deniers who did get reelected, there are 155 of them that are going back to the House of Representatives, that they want Donald Trump to be the Speaker of the House. That's crazy.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
What is politics about? MAGA Republicans believe it is all about chaos, owning the libs, white grievance and anger. That's wrong. Governing is about making our lives better. In just one piece of legislation, Democratic senators took action to lower prescription drug prices, giving Medicare the ability to negotiate with Big Pharma, shifted tax burden from the middle class to the very wealthy, protected our future with the most sweeping climate change action in U.S. history. What do you want? Anger or results?
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the screamers, the criminals, the carnival barkers and their loyal clowns, the ones who don't like differences. They hate the rules and they have no respect for you. You can't reason with them or disagree with them. They glorify villains and vilify heroes. About the only thing you shouldn't do is ignore them, because they have a plan to push America backwards. And while some may see them as crazy, we know they're dangerous. Because if we don't fight, the people who are crazy enough to think they can stop progress will.
Glad to have the MAGA-packed Supreme Court, proud that they lied under oath to get the job? If so, thank a MAGA Republican. If you enjoy seeing our rights disappear one by one, thank a MAGA Republican today. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Hi, I'm Laura Flanders of The Laura Flanders Show, where I interview the best thinkers and doers about...
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 2014. That was the day 4 workers were killed and a 5th injured during a chemical leak at a DuPont insecticide plant near Houston, Texas. The plant used methyl mercaptan in its production of insecticides. 24,000 pounds of the deadly chemical were released through 2 valves in a poorly ventilated building on site. The U.S. Chemical Safety Board found numerous flawed safety procedures, design problems, and inadequate planning. Days earlier, liquid methyl mercaptan had solidified in piping, causing a blockage. Workers attempted to clear it by spraying the pipes with hot water. They didn't realize they had cleared the blockage, which then created a high-pressure buildup of the chemical in other piping. When 2 workers went to drain those pipes in a routine procedure, they were overcome by toxic vapors. Another 2 workers answering the subsequent distress call were also killed. DuPont blamed the workers for the release of the toxic gas, but the CSB found a number of violations. The building where the release occurred had an inadequate toxic gas detection system. Ventilation fans were not working, and the workers were not required to wear additional breathing protection for tasks they performed there. Line clearing procedures were faulty, routinely exposing workers to toxic fumes. The board also found that DuPont worked to conceal from environmental regulators as many as 4 releases of methyl mercaptan 2 days before workers were killed. The CSB asserted that design flaws prompted months of clogs before the deadly incident. More generally, they noted that the design of the building that housed the pesticide unit inherently increased the threat of exposure to workers and the public. DuPont opted to close the plant in 2016 rather than meet recommendations of federal regulators. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
911, what's your emergency?
America's healthcare system is broken and people are dying.
Welcome to Code Whack, where we shine a light on America's callous healthcare system, how it hurts us, and what we can do about it. I'm your host, Brenda Gazar. This time on Code Whack, what pitfalls does Medicare Advantage pose? And what is the Medigap trap that many people are unwittingly...
Don't give up! Don't give up! What's
true? This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
And they might just vote for Trump when they, take the roll call for speaker. So we know that the hard right Freedom Caucus people are in search of another candidate. And one potential candidate whose name has been floated is Donald Trump himself, because the Speaker of the House does not have to be a member of the House. And they are talking about putting Trump right there.
That's not a real option now.
Well, they talk about it repeatedly. And if Trump decided he wanted to do it, it would pose a profound problem for their party because they refuse to do the right thing early on. I mean, today it seems like the spell has been broken. It's begun to dissolve. We don't have Republicans around the country claiming that they really won when it's been certified that they lost their elections. And yet there is still this big lie dogma, which, as you say, has been embraced by 150 members within their caucus. And so that is going to create profound cognitive and political dissonance within the GOP. Is it really Trump's party, or does it stand for something else? And Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger are going to force that question. They're going to force the Republicans to choose.
So that's where we are right now. The Republican Party is essentially having a funeral for the Republican Party. And they don't know if they want to resurrect Donald Trump or they want to resurrect, let's say, George Herbert Walker Bush. They don't know what kind of party they should be. And so you do have the right-wing, lunatic, fringy election deniers, Trump maggots that are still serving in the House of Representatives. I mean, 168 election deniers across the country actually won elections. 155 of those are going to the House of Representatives. 155 of them. Now, I put in the homework today a whole list. There are 291 election deniers, those who have denied and or questioned the outcome of the last presidential election that were on ballots across this country. They were running either for Congress or one of the state level positions, governor, attorney general, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, right? And 155 of them are going to the House of Representatives, and the rest are 168 of them actually won. Of those 168, 155 are going to the House of Representatives, and the rest of them, are going to other high offices in various states. Now, what we do know is the swing states, the ones that, would be the battlegrounds for the next presidential, did not vote for election deniers. And so we don't have election deniers in charge of elections in any of the battleground states, like not in Wisconsin, not in Pennsylvania, not in Arizona, Florida, yeah. You see what I mean? So, but now they're having to pick, their leadership, the Republican caucus. And so today they nominated, which is a simple majority, they nominated Kevin McCarthy, which people like Matt Gaetz, people like, what's his name? Andy Biggs, Paul Gosar, this crowd, they're not voting for McCarthy. They don't think, now McCarthy has to get 218 votes to be the next Speaker of the House. And Matt Gaetz is all over media. I mean, he was everywhere. He was on every right-wing psycho platform you could put yourself on yesterday, screaming and yelling about how he wants Jim Jordan or Marjorie Taylor Greene is wrong for supporting Kevin McCarthy. And as fast as you could say Jewish space lasers, if she votes for him because she wants, some committee seats, or she wants to be on oversight, or she wants to be somewhere where she can, create trouble, she better think again before she throws her loyalty behind Kevin McCarthy, because Kevin McCarthy will unload her. He will, backstab her faster than you can say Jewish space lasers.
While I deeply care about Marjorie Taylor Greene, I see what a warrior and a fighter she is in the movement. My concern is that we cannot trust Kevin McCarthy. This is the same Kevin McCarthy who said that I was a danger to others because I verbally criticized Liz Cheney. This is the same Kevin McCarthy who spent tens of millions of dollars in primaries against America First candidates. And then when people like Caroline Leavitt and Joe Kent prevailed in their primaries, they were in a worse shape to go and face the general election because Kevin McCarthy had spent so much money against them in the primary. I mean, I look at Yvette Herschel in New Mexico, who's only going to lose by a small handful of votes. And what if instead of attacking Republicans and supporters of President Trump, we put those tens of millions of dollars behind her candidacy? So I think there were strategic decisions that were wrong. I think those strategic decisions illuminate a lack of trust. And whatever Kevin has promised Marjorie Taylor Greene, I guarantee you this, at the first opportunity, he will zap her faster than you could say Jewish space laser.
Seriously, you think I make this crap up? No, he's sitting there on Lindell TV, whatever the hell that, that who watches that. But he's actually on every right-wing freaky platform saying that you cannot have McCarthy as Speaker.
This is very premature. There is precisely one moment in time when there is a vote to determine who the Speaker will be. That is on January 3rd, and I think we will have far better options than Kevin McCarthy. I think you'll see a critical mass say that we want to turn the page. We want new leadership. We want fresh faces and new ideas. And what I could tell you as I stand here right now is that Kevin McCarthy does not have 218 votes to become Speaker. I don't think he has 200.
Oh my God. Okay, and then he said he wants Jim Jordan because, wait for it, Jim Jordan is the most ethical. This is the most ethical person in the Republican Party.
For Speaker of the House in the next Congress, I prefer Ohio's Jim Jordan. And it is not always easy for a guy from the Deep South to be for someone from a Big Ten state. But I am certain that Americans didn't hand Republicans this majority in the House just to watch the Speaker's gavel get handed from one member of the California delegation to another. Jim Jordan is the hardest working, most ethical, most talented member of the House of Representatives. He is the true leader of our caucus, no matter who has the fancy titles or big offices. And so with such a slim majority, we shouldn't be starting the C team. We need to put our star players in a position to shine brightest so that we can attract more people to our policies and ideas.
You don't have any policies. You don't even have a platform. You haven't had an idea in your head since Herbert Walker, really. You haven't had an idea in your head that America would, cozy up to in forever. What is this? You know what we're going to get with them. I mean, if the House goes to, first of all, they're not even waiting to find out if they have the majority. It's likely that they do by like 2 seats. 2 seats. But, they're not even waiting. They're already, fighting each other for who gets to lead the investigations. Because that's all you're going to get out of a Republican Congress for 2 stinking years. You're not going to get any policies. They're not going to codify Roe. They're not going to, make amends for attacking, LGBT kids. They're not going to stop book banning or burning or whatever the hell they listen, Tennessee yesterday, I should have told the caller, Tennessee got about their business right away after the election. You know what their first order of business was? Banning drag shows. This was what was on the top of the list for the state of Tennessee to address after this unbelievable election. Not inflation, not cost of living, not Medicare, not insulin costs, not prescription drug. No. Their big to-do, their number one thing that they got right to was to ban drag shows in the state of Tennessee. I swear to God, these people don't want to govern. They like culture wars, okay? And the only thing that you're going to get out of a Republican House of Representatives, until 2024, are investigations into whether Hunter Biden lied on an application for a handgun. I mean, and the answer, I could save them all this time and effort. The answer, I believe, is yes, he did. There. Now move along. Nothing to see here. Go do some work. Go pass an anti-gouging piece of legislation. Go expand Medicaid to states where it's not expanded. Go do something about the Electoral Count Act. Go do something about codifying Roe. You think that's why you lost? I mean, Jeanine Pirro, she sounded just like Kay. I swear to God, she sounded like Kay Corleone last night on Fox News. She's sitting there, I don't know, she must have either had hand surgery or broke something, in a drunken stupor. But she's sitting there with her hand in like a semi-cast, screaming, "It was about abortion! It was about abortion, Michael! Something evil and unholy! It was a son, and I had it killed! Because this whole Sicilian thing that's been going on for 2,000 years has all got to come to an end." Douche. I swear to God, that's what she was doing. She was sitting on Fox blaming, it was about abortion. It was about abortion. That's why we lost. Well, codify it.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
911, what's your emergency?
America's healthcare system is broken and people are dying.
Welcome to Code WACK, where we shine a light on America's callous healthcare system, how it hurts us, and what we can do about it. I'm your host, Brenda Gazar. This time on Code WACK, what are some of the possible dangers and pitfalls of Medicare Advantage plans? And how do they respond to patients' needs differently compared to traditional Medicare? To find out, we spoke to Dr. Ed Weisbart, a retired family physician and a national board member of Physicians for a National Health Program.
So when Medicare pays your claims, as it does in original or traditional Medicare, Parts A and B, that's their only job, is to pay your claims. They don't get in the way. They're not trying to make money off of you. You have Medicare as your health insurance. You go to the doctor or hospital that you want, and Medicare pays your claims. But if you have opted into Medicare Advantage, Medicare itself is no longer paying your claims at all. Instead, Medicare is paying an insurance company to pay your claims. And the insurance company, as we all learned from having employer-based insurance and other things, is really not out to just pay your claims. They're out to make money off of this. And so the more often they can avoid paying your claims or deny paying your claims or delay paying your claims or make it complicated for anybody to get a claim paid, the more they can do that, the more money they can make. So they're no longer really focused on you. They're now focused on their own profits. And that's completely different than having the government just pay your claims, than having Medicare pay your claims.
A full Code WACK story on ProgressiveVoices.com and on the PV app. Catch all our episodes by subscribing to Code WACK wherever you find your podcast. This podcast is powered by Heal California, a nonprofit that uplifts the voices of those fighting for healthcare reform around the country. Until next time, stay healthy.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report. We're racing forward to do our part to avert the climate hell that the UN Secretary General so passionately warned about earlier this week.
President Biden pledges U.S. leadership and funding at UN Climate Summit. U.S. and China resume formal climate negotiations. Plus,
that result means Democrats would once again control the Senate.
Democrats hold on to thin Senate majority, holding line on U.S. climate policy.
All of those thin majorities and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
And let me tell you this here. If we was ready for the green agenda, I'll raise my hand right now, but we're not ready right now. We're not prepared. We're not ready right now. What we need to do is keep having those gas guzzling cars.
Ladies and gentlemen, Georgia's Republican U.S. Senate candidate, Herschel Walker. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, the election that continues to inform our outlook on the climate. But first, we're stuck dealing with what happened in Florida.
Yes, we are. Hurricane Nicole caused an estimated $5 to $7 billion in damages after it slammed into Florida last week as a rare November hurricane, destroying roads, bridges, and dozens of beachfront buildings. That's according to AccuWeather.
So another $1 billion-plus storm as these things continue to pile up in recent years.
Yes, they do. In other news, as we go to air, Democrats have retained their razor-thin majority in the U.S. Senate, but control of the U.S. House is likely to narrowly go to Republicans. Congress matters because it will determine where and how quickly funding is deployed for climate and clean energy projects under President Biden's landmark climate law, the Inflation Reduction Act, and whether the U.S. will follow through on funding commitments to help developing nations adapt to the climate crisis. President Biden spoke at the United Nations Climate Summit, COP27, in Egypt on Friday, announcing that thanks to Democrats passing the Inflation Reduction Act, the U.S. is now on track to meet its pledge under the Paris Climate Agreement to cut its emissions 43% by 2030. Biden apologized for the U.S. withdrawal from the Paris Agreement during the Trump administration.
Good. He should.
And he urged major emitters that are responsible for man-made global warming, like the U.S., to move faster to cut greenhouse gas emissions to prevent overshooting 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming to avoid catastrophic impacts.
If we're going to win this fight, every major emitter nation needs to align with the 1.5 degrees. We can no longer plead ignorance to the consequences of our actions or continue to repeat our mistakes. Everyone has to keep accelerating efforts throughout this decisive decade.
Yes, we do. Of course, beginning with us, but hopefully what we're doing and that $400 billion we've allocated under the new bill, is that encouraging the rest of the world to do the same?
It does seem to be helping. COP27 this year is focused on international climate finance under the Paris Agreement. That is getting rich nations that are primarily responsible for the crisis to boost funding to help poorer countries adapt to climate impacts and avoid becoming dependent on fossil fuels. After decades of resistance, there is some progress. Denmark pledged $500 million to finance adaptation in Namibia. Europe, the U.S., and Japan announced $20 billion to help Indonesia ditch coal. Overall, the U.S., U.K., Canada, and Australia are laggards on climate finance. Biden pledged that the U.S. will quadruple funding to help other nations fight climate change, increasing U.S. contributions to a climate resilience fund to $100 million, plus $150 million in new funding for adaptation and resilience projects in Africa. However, Congress must approve any new U.S. funding.
Exactly. The new Congress can stop all of that. Plus, President DeSantis can just call it all off.
The U.S. also proposed launching an international carbon credit trading system, which would allow corporations to pay someone else to cut emissions. That would raise revenue for developing nations, but it was criticized as a way for rich countries to avoid taking responsibility for causing the climate crisis. And it matters because a new analysis from the Global Carbon Budget concludes that at current emissions rates, nations will likely burn through their remaining carbon budget in 9 years, causing the world to blow past that critical 1.5 degrees Celsius target under the Paris Agreement. Finally, some good news.
Thank you.
Biden's diplomacy blitz appears to be working. On Monday at the G20 meeting, the White House announced that the U.S. and China, the world's two biggest greenhouse gas emitters, will resume formal climate negotiations, which experts called a significant development, opening up a pathway for greater emissions cuts.
So the U.S. and China are talking again about climate. There's that. For much more on all of those stories and the ones we couldn't get to today, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Find, follow, and share us planet-wide on the Facebooks and the Twitters at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
Please help Progressive Voices support the Green News Report by stopping by bradblog.com/donate.
Mary had a little man.
The fourth, we believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
I'll tell you what won this election for the Democrats. Sure, the young people came out and voted. They got paid. I mean, they got the student loans paid back. It was a buyout. I mean, that's what happened with them. But the other thing is abortion. It was all about abortion. Joe Biden didn't do abortion. Abortion just kind of fell out of the Supreme Court for whatever reason in May or June of this year. And that was it. That's all the Democrats needed. Now, they're going to beat their chests. They're going to say, well, it's because we're so great. Joe Biden, what a leader. America hates him. Okay? And that's all I have to say.
It was abortion, Michael. Abortion. First of all, okay, I don't even want to say anything about her armpits, but you know what? You can't do sleeveless anymore, Janine. You just can't do it. Put a sleeve on.
I know I should have been paying attention to what she was saying. All I can think of is Randi is definitely going to say something about her outfit.
Did you see her armpits? Did you see how wrinkled they
She
are?
looked like a drunken Venom. Like,
oh my God! I listen. Whoever's doing her face, keep it up. Good job, nicely done. Because somebody's doing her face. I mean, she's older than I am. Okay, but the armpit thing, like she's sitting there wearing, stilettos and sleeveless like these 35-year-old Fox News models, and I'm sorry, but it's disgusting. Okay, put a bolero, put a sleeve on it. You don't believe me? Here, now watch it.
I'll tell you what won this election for the Democrats. Sure, the young people came out and voted. They got paid. I mean, they got the student loans paid back. It was a buyout. I mean, that's what happened with them. But the other thing is abortion. It was all about abortion. Joe Biden didn't do abortion. Abortion just kind of fell out of the Supreme Court for whatever reason in May or June of this year. And that was it. That's all the Democrats.
It's bizarre, okay? And they're all having their autopsy moment. They're all having their postmortems, okay? It is really bizarre what's going on now. Josh Hawley said the GOP is dead.
The Republican Party appears to be fractured in both the House and the Senate as the GOP continues to wrestle with what went wrong with the midterms. And Republican Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri went as far as to call the party dead.
Dead.
I think that this election was the funeral for the Republican Party as we know it. The Republican Party, as we have known it, is dead. And voters have made that clear. And I think this is a referendum on the Republican Party as we've known it since the 1990s. And I think it was a pretty resounding verdict. And that's why I say we need to be thinking about what the future here is. I like a lot of what President Trump did as president. I think we've got a lot to talk about there. But we need to have a conversation about our core convictions as a party. And clearly, this party is going to have to it's going to have to be different, or we're not going to be a majority party in this country.
It's dead. Is dead. Which tell you he's running for president, right? I could tell you right now, at least 3 people I know are going to be in the Republican primary, okay? Mike Pence is running. There's no question in my mind. It took Mike Pence a book tour to tell us that Donald Trump threatened his life, okay? But now he's out there shilling, and he's out there grifting, and he's out there selling a book about his undying, love of a man that he just was betrayed by. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like it's almost like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I mean, it's quite a story. But he's selling a book, so now he's confessing. Well, Mike Pence is absolutely, positively, 100% running for president of the United States. So is Ron DeSantis. Okay, he's running. And so is Donald Trump, according to everything everybody is saying he's going to announce tonight. So we know 3 people. I wouldn't count out Josh Hawley. I wouldn't count out Ted Cruz. Okay. And obviously, Rick Scott is not going to run because Rick Scott thinks he's the next minority leader. Let's get it right. Rick Scott thinks he's the next minority leader for the House, for the Senate Republicans, and pretty much said as much. Okay. Larry Kudlow asked Rick Scott if he's going to support Mitch McConnell for minority leader yet again. And, he just wouldn't answer.
Are you yourself backing Mitch McConnell? I don't recall.
I don't recall.
Well, look, I think we ought to have to figure out, like you, Larry, I think what we have to do is say, what do we do going forward? And that's what I want to do. I want to focus on how do we go forward.
All right, you want to wait and see and then go for it.
Uh-huh. So that means he's running. He's running to be minority leader for the Senate. Okay, that's what he's doing. Pence obviously is going to run.
The president's words were reckless, and his actions were reckless.
Former Vice President Mike Pence, widely expected to be planning his own 2024 campaign, now opposing his former boss.
Now.
Do you believe that Donald Trump should ever be president again? I think that's up to the American people. But I think we'll have better choices in the future.
Despite these critiques, Mr. Trump's announcement of a 3rd run for the White House will go forward today, according to a top advisor.
This can be a very professional, very buttoned-up announcement.
Mr. Trump has been recently ramping up attacks against perceived opponents, especially Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. But polling released by a conservative group opposing Mr. Trump shows DeSantis opening significant leads over the former president in key early primary states.
Ooh, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be fugly. They're going to all rip each other to Donald Trump is just going to tear DeSantis apart. He is. He's going. And DeSantis, he has no charisma. I don't know if you know very much about him, but, he is my governor. And I will tell you, he has 0 charisma. He is somebody who is rumored to be controlled completely by his, wife, who wants to, be First Lady of the United States. So, I just think Donald Trump has already threatened that he's got dirt on DeSantis. Stuff that's going to, embarrass him, stuff that only his wife knows. This is what Donald Trump has said. And, Donald Trump has taken apart guys like Ted Cruz by going after Ted Cruz's wife, by going after Ted Cruz's dad, right? He takes these people apart.
Do you think Pence's perceived morality and perceived religiosity could be like a haven for Republican voters? Seriously,
yes,
give
but
them a
there's
push?
just not enough of them to win. There aren't enough evangelical voters, and there aren't enough Republicans left in this here country. Okay. Plus, Pence is truly in love with Donald Trump.
President Trump and I actually forged a close working relationship. He was not just my president; he was my friend. And we literally spent time together every day when we were both at the White House. Sometimes up to 4 hours a day.
He's deeply, deeply in love. He is. He can't quit him. He just can't. He can't quit him.
That's pretty abusive. I mean, when your significant other is calling for your hanging and you come running back,
Isn't it?
It's kind of toxic.
It's Stockholm syndrome. It's like, he fell in love with his abuser. There's no question that, he is madly, madly in love with Donald Trump. And if Donald Trump, goes to Pence and soothes him and tells him he still loves him and, pets him or brings him back on, into his wrinkly, disgusting armpit and says, come nestle in my breasts, Pence will do it. He will. He is madly, truly, deeply, deeply in love with Donald Trump. And I don't know if Mother knows it. I don't know. I mean, I have this crazy idea that the reason why Mike Pence is so religious, is so into, this brand of evangelical Christianity is because he thinks if he lets it go just a little tiny tad, just a bit, just a touch, he'll go full out gay. And he's afraid of his own feelings. So he suppresses them in Mother's arms, And he does call his wife Mother. And she does have rules for him. Like he's not allowed to go and be amongst the women. It's a very strange little cult that he belongs to. Overcompensation.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
America's political, corporate, and media establishments were cocksure about their prognostications that a powerful red wave was about to hit America in this month's elections. It would sweep Democrats out and push Republicans into office all across America, they exclaimed. How shocking and embarrassing, then, that their raging wave turned out to be just a little ripple. Republicans ran poorly and many Democrats ran well. Still, the Democratic Party as a whole should have done better if its Don't Rock the Boat leadership had been gutsier, more progressive, and, yes, more democratic. Well, murmured the party's Washington hierarchy, we can't get too far ahead of the people. Really? Why not ask the people themselves? That's the virtue of the ballot initiative system. It allows grassroots groups to put issues up for a vote, rather than letting the public agenda be controlled by a clique of lobbyists, legislators, and party line followers. This year, there were 132 of these initiatives on the ballots in 37 states, and more on local ballots. And vote after vote showed that the people are way ahead of the political insiders in support of strong progressive policies. By big margins, 3 states said to hell with a Republican Supreme Court enshrining women's abortion rights in their state constitutions. South Dakota, supposedly a right-wing bastion, shoved their GOP governor and legislators aside to expand Medicaid health coverage to the state's low-income families. In bright red Nebraska, nearly 60% of voters said yes to a $15 minimum wage. A big majority in Illinois amended the state constitution to guarantee collective bargaining rights for workers. 70% of New Mexico voters made funding of early childhood education a constitutional requirement. This is Jim Hightower saying, for more information, go to ballotpedia.org.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 2014. That was the day 4 workers were killed and a 5th injured during a chemical leak at a DuPont insecticide plant near Houston, Texas. The plant used methyl mercaptan in its production of insecticides. 24,000 pounds of the deadly chemical were released through 2 valves in a poorly ventilated building on site. The U.S. Chemical Safety Board found numerous flawed safety procedures, design problems, and inadequate planning. Days earlier, liquid methyl mercaptan had solidified in piping, causing a blockage. Workers attempted to clear it by spraying the pipes with hot water. They didn't realize they had cleared the blockage, which then created a high-pressure buildup of the chemical in other piping. When 2 workers went to drain those pipes in a routine procedure, they were overcome by toxic vapors. Another 2 workers answering the subsequent distress call were also killed. DuPont blamed the workers for the release of the toxic gas, but the CSB found a number of violations. The building where the release occurred had an inadequate toxic gas detection system. Ventilation fans were not working, and the workers were not required to wear additional breathing protection for tasks they performed there. Line clearing procedures were faulty, routinely exposing workers to toxic fumes. The board also found that DuPont worked to conceal from environmental regulators as many as 4 releases of methyl mercaptan 2 days before workers were killed. The CSB asserted that design flaws prompted months of clogs before the deadly incident. More generally, they noted that the design of the building that housed the pesticide unit inherently increased the threat of exposure to workers and the public. DuPont opted to close the plant in 2016 rather than meet recommendations of federal regulators. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
I watched it on TV.
All things Randy at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Oh, okay. Adam in L.A.
Hi, Randy.
Hi, Adam.
It's an honor to talk to you, a long-time listener.
Oh, hey. Oh.
Thank you. So I'm wondering if you heard this. I was talking to Brett about it, on MSNBC, one of the pundits said that the Republicans in the entire midterm got more votes than the Democrats. And I'm concerned about that because it's usually the other way around. It's usually the Dems are gerrymandered out and end up getting more votes but lose more seats. So I'm kind of concerned that the Republicans are going to kind of like move toward the middle, go normcore, and the independents and moderates are going to vote for them in 2024. What do you think?
Have we counted California where 40 million people live? Because I don't think we have.
That's true. I'm not sure where that number came from.
Right. So why are we talking about total number of voters if we haven't even counted California where 40 million people actually live? What are we going to compare California to the tumble and tumbleweeds of Montana, Wyoming, Arizona, Nevada?
No.
No.
I guess not. But
I mean, whenever you see somebody say something and the votes haven't been counted yet, just move along because it's not something you should actually, say out loud to somebody else. It's just not. We don't even really. I mean, I have no idea how many people in California voted. I have no earthly idea.
I voted, of course. But
yes, but you're making a point that isn't provable at all because it's not counted.
But what about the whole? I'm not arguing with you. I agree with you. But what about them? Now you hear Josh Hawley saying, this party needs core values again, and
what are their core values? Lowering taxes for millionaires? I mean, what are their values? What are they for? They don't even have a platform, Adam. They stand for absolutely nothing but pure power.
I agree. I completely agree with you, but I just think that they're going to change their strategy. They're going to come up with some values that,
But if Trump announces tonight, think about it. How do they change? How do they pivot? How do they move away from Trumpism?
That's going to be
if Trump is going to, announce, right? I mean, how do they even, Herschel Walker will go down in flames because Donald Trump is such a damaged narcissist that he has to, either try to burn it all down to the ground so we have no country, or regain his ability, to control everything, all the conversation in this country again. I mean, how do they do an autopsy if the body isn't dead?
You're right. I mean, I know they're done with Trump, but Trump's not done with them.
Exactly. Of course he's not done with them. That's the whole point of today. And let me tell you what's going to happen because, listen, it's almost 2023 here, okay? We just got through the midterm elections. We should be celebrating. We should be excited. We should be happy. We should be.
I am.
Okay. And so 2023 is going to come before you could even blink your eyes, okay? And then when 2023 comes, boom, we're in the primaries for 2024, okay? And it's going to happen before you can even, say maggots, right? Before you can even, And he is going to announce tonight, and all of the news tomorrow is going to be about him.
Yeah, no, I know. It's going to be a feeding frenzy over there, and I'm not scared of Trump anymore, so I hope he does become the nominee because I think he is beatable. But
beatable. The man has never won without help, okay? He has never won anything without cheating, without help, without somebody, gaming social media or gaming the system or spying he has never won anything on his own, ever. If he didn't inherit his daddy's money, this guy would be a crazy squeegee guy on the Lower East Side, okay? That's who he'd be.
Yep, he's got no discernible talent except he says whatever's in his head, and
he's a good salesman. I'll give him that. He's a very good salesman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have any shame, obviously.
So he'd be man of the year at Prudential or something, I mean, that's who he'd be, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, as far as a total number of voters, you can't count voters until you count 40 million people in California. You can't make a statement about how many people voted until we're done with California. Sarah in West Palm.
Hey, Randy.
Hi.
I was just wondering about that announcement that he could possibly be wanting to be Speaker of the House. I mean, after what happened with Nancy Pelosi's husband, isn't that just asking for trouble for Biden and Harris, putting him second in line to the presidency?
Third.
So third in line, yeah.
Well, he'd be, second. You're right. Yeah. First is vice president, then Speaker of the House. So, yeah, second.
Right. But, I mean, that just scares the crap out of me that they would,
why?
There's crazies out there that would just take that as a challenge to, now he can be president again if we just, knock out the other two.
Yeah, the whole idea that he would be the Speaker of the House it's so strange. It's so un-American. It's so bizarre that we would have a Speaker of the House that was never elected to anything who could then, manage crazy people into believing that is a pathway for him to become president yet again. Yes, it's very sick. It's very twisted. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
the whole thing's just bizarre. So
this whole party is the strangest group of people I have ever seen. The idea that they are out there saying, conspiracy theories and QAnon and JFK and RFK and like all of this weirdness, all of this strange strain of political conspiratorial. It's the weirdest I've ever seen our politics.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, if he's trying to be Speaker of the House, it's likely because it's a pathway to the presidency, whether it involves violence or not. If he's the Speaker of the House, then he could stop the certification of the 2024 if he's not elected, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, yeah. Weird.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Strange. So strange.
I honestly, they were able to keep themselves from taking a shot at Obama, an African-American with a Muslim name. I felt like that's even a bridge too far for the far right. But after the reaction to the Pelosi attack, I'm starting to rethink how they view something like that.
Well, the Secret Service protected Obama, okay, and Hillary Clinton. And they do protect Biden, and I'm sure they protect Kamala very well, but the idea isn't lost on anybody that Donald Trump being Speaker of the House is entirely too close to the presidency for a guy who was elected to nothing since 2016. You realize it's almost 10 years ago, 2016? I mean, this... It's unbelievable what we have been put through because of this maniac.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
This is Stephanie Miller, and here's what you missed.
That's my boo, Carrie. I can't wait to see her Newsmax show. Can you?
John, what's your thoughts? Just your initial thoughts on the what are we calling it? A light spotting of red?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they promised a red wave, but it was one of their light days. It looks like.
Yeah. We just all collided getting to the menstrual joke.
I love it when America's center-left majority shows up for the midterms. That's what I love. And we always say, when there's high turnout, the Democrats will win. When there's low turnout, the status quo always shows up. And Steph, I mean, we've been talking about it. I've been talking about it every night on Sirius XM. We can't believe the polls. You can't anymore. Polls now are polls of people who answer their landline phones during dinner hours.
Right.
And they're polls of people who see a number on their cell phone they don't know and answer it anyway. It's not an accurate depiction of America, and it doesn't go after young people at all.
And also, as a lot of people said, they flooded the zone with a lot of these junk polls to try and, skew the average. I have to say that strategy didn't work for them. The overconfidence and there's going to be a huge red wave, measuring the drapes already, that obviously did not work.
Yeah, but that's the entire corporate media ecosystem gaslighting us as well. Let's not forget, journalists can be very good people, but the companies that own their media generally don't want to have a tiny tax increase, and a lot of them are big pharma, and they really don't like that Joe Biden is the president who managed to make it possible for Medicare to negotiate with big pharma for lower drug prices. So there's a lot of vested corporate interest in Democrats being hurt. I have not been so proud of a group of people this year since the Ukrainian people. Honestly, the turnout, so many people showed up when they're not supposed to in an off-year election. I think that feeling I have is patriotism.
Hear all this and more on the next Stephanie Miller Show.
He was elected overwhelmingly at a dark time. Years of chaos, hate, our politics used as a wedge to divide, not a common cause to unite. Democracy attacked. Joe Biden stepped forward as president for every American. These are difficult days. Years of pandemic, war in Europe driving world energy prices up, a radical Supreme Court majority, the Republican Party embracing autocracy, rejecting any positive change. There are no easy answers, no quick fixes. But in just 18 months, President Biden is making our lives better. A record 6.6 million jobs added in the first year. 600,000 manufacturing jobs. Unemployment at a historic low. Wages rising at a record pace. After years of Republican failure, President Biden is rebuilding America's infrastructure.
We've stared into the abyss of insurrection and autocracy.
Thousands of jobs, 90% no college degree needed.
And we, the people, did not flinch.
President Joe Biden.
It's never, ever, ever been a good bet to bet against America.
He's working for America.
And it still isn't.
What's your emergency?
America's healthcare system is broken, and people are dying.
Welcome to Code WAC, where we shine a light on America's callous healthcare system, how it hurts us, and what we can do about it. I'm your host, Brenda Gazar. This time on Code WAC, what pitfalls does Medicare Advantage pose? And what is the Medigap trap that many people are unwittingly falling into?
Don't give up. Don't give up. What's true?
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Of the 569 Republicans running for federal and key statewide offices in the midterms, 291, or 51%, were election denier candidates. More than 60% of those 291 deniers won their races. But in 6 battleground states where former President Donald Trump tried to overturn the results in 2020, election deniers lost key races that would have put Republicans in a position to act on those false claims in future elections. Republican denier candidates for Secretary of State lost in Michigan, Arizona, and Nevada, which means that none of the 6 2020 battleground states will have an election denier overseeing their elections in 2024. Election denier gubernatorial candidates also lost in key states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And some, But not all of these candidates conceded their defeats within days, after suggesting in the run-up to the election that they would not concede if they lost.
Candidate quality is very important, and when you have good candidates, they win big. And I think the other thing, I think people are looking for character. Character is job one in this job.
But at the federal level, election deniers won many of their races across the country. And in the House of Representatives, at least 150 election deniers are projected to have won their elections, an increase from the 139 House Republicans who voted to reject the election results after a pro-Trump mob stormed the Capitol on January 6th.
So that is something that we have to cleanse ourselves of, okay? So that's what I was telling you earlier, that 155 election deniers who ran are going to Congress. 150 of them are in our new Congress. That is a problem. That is frightening. And we need to cleanse ourselves of these people. And we will get a chance to do that in 2024 because every one of them, every single one of them will be on the ballot again. Every one of them. And that's why who runs in 2024 for the Democrats really, really matters. More than who runs for the Republicans, because, you know, people who may have given Donald Trump a shot because he was different, because he said he knew the inside game, he said he knew how it was played, because he played it, right? Because he takes advantage of it. He knows where all the bodies are buried, and he was going to, exhume all those bodies and cleanse it and put you first. Turned out that was a lie. Not the first part. That he games the system, that he, but he even went too far. I mean, he cheats on his taxes. He's being looked at, for tax fraud, for defrauding the United States of tax revenue. That's what the trial in New York is about with Weisselberg, right? Tax fraud. But listen, it's going to matter whether or not we have a candidate for the Democrats who can inspire people, who can get people to the polls. Now, I know a lot of people are going to go, well, it ain't Joe Biden. Well, I don't know. I mean, Joe Biden is the president of the United States currently, and we got this result. And we got this result because we got a lot of legislation. We got a lot of good stuff done. And you know what they're doing tomorrow? Tomorrow, the Senate, I told you, that I would like to see the lame duck raise the debt limit to like $1 billion trillion so that we don't, or do away with it, just get it off the table somehow, so that Republicans can't hold us hostage when they refuse to raise the debt ceiling because, they're in the House, whatever. We need to deal with that. But tomorrow, you're actually going to see a same-sex marriage piece of legislation. It's already been filed for cloture, and it has the votes needed for the bill to pass. It's already passed the House, and that's why it's important it happens now, so we don't have to repass it through the House because it's already done. And once, January comes, it will be a new Congress, and all the previously agreed to legislation in the House goes away. It goes away, right? So what they're going to do tomorrow is they're going to, pass same-sex marriage. It's going to be called the Respect for Marriage Act. And it's not going to tell the states that they must issue marriage licenses. It just is going to tell the states that if people are coming from a state that issued a marriage license, you, no matter what your point of view is about issuing marriage licenses, you have to respect that they are married. And that's going to happen tomorrow. The other thing that they ought to do is codify Roe v. Wade, right? So that, that can be dealt with by, obviously the Republicans aren't going to do a jack crap thing. They're just going to have hearings. That's what they're going to do. They're going to investigate this person, investigate that person. They're going to talk a great game about immigration and the southern border. And you'll start to hear people repeat it, to me, but the southern border and Joe Biden didn't do that. But they're not going to vote for comprehensive immigration reform. No, they'll say they'll vote for comprehensive immigration reform when we have no immigration. And that will never happen in this country. Okay, it's just, but that's going to be their entry level to doing anything about immigration. They're going to insist over and over again, we can't do anything about DACA. We can't do anything about Dreamers. We can't do anything about, fixing the asylum system so that people can move through the asylum system much, much faster, so that they can be sent back if they need to be sent back, or if they have legitimate asylum claims, to make them and have them heard. They're not interested in doing that. They're not interested in anything that would be meaningful or would solve any of our problems. Just know that. But Joe Biden has solved a whole host of our problems, everything from student loans to bipartisan bills for infrastructure packages. I mean, all this stuff really, really did get done. It really did. But we have to cleanse ourselves of these remnants, these little remnants of the Trump era, of the Tea Party era. If you want to, look at where all this started, how did we get an Andy Biggs? How did we get a Paul Gosar? How did we get these lunatic, fringy people? Tea Party. Ginny Thomas and her Tea Party. Ginny Thomas and the Heritage Foundation. Ginny Thomas and Dick Armey, with Tea Party Patriots, right? And then they started destroying each other to the point where, the Tea Party sort of died out because they went after each other. Like, I'm more Tea Party than your Tea Party group, right? And so they killed each other off. And they just became maggots. They became Trump acolytes. It's time to end it. It's time to get this done. And, we made some progress, but like I said, we still, they'll probably have the House by the virtue of 2 votes. Now, I still like Len's idea, Len in New York. I like his idea of trying to flip 2 moderate Republicans to the Democratic side so that they can't have the House. That would be one way to deal and cope. And then pass all kinds of stuff that people really, really want, like immigration reform, right? That would be the big kahuna. That would be the main event. That would be something that you could sing from the mountaintops, that the Democrats accomplished, that we have a secure border, that we've done comprehensive immigration reform.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
Vice President Mike Pence calls his wife Karen mother, and sometimes mother. Mother does not allow father to attend events with alcohol without her being present. Mother does not allow father to have dinner with another woman. In fact, mother does not allow father to be alone in a room with another woman. Mother is an art teacher at Emmanuel Christian School, which requires employees to affirm in writing that they will not engage in homosexual sexual acts or have a transgender identity. Father's epic homophobia made him sign into law in Indiana the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which encouraged and condoned the aggressive discrimination of gays and lesbians. Around the White House, mother is known as the bulldog and father as the pleaser. Father was placed in charge of the coronavirus response on February 26th. The 5 months that followed, more than 170,000 Americans have died. Mother and father both opposed gay marriage. In interviews, father obsessively praises Trump's broad shoulders, and cameras have repeatedly caught him looking at Trump like Cinderella. Some senators call Pence Trump's 4th wife. An official from the Reagan administration said, "I'd like my wife to look at me just for one day the way Mike Pence looks at President Trump every day they're together." Father wrote about how disgusted he was with the Republican Party because they allowed HIV-positive people to speak at the 1996 convention. Father supported the use of federal funding to treat people, quote, seeking to change their sexual behavior, unquote, otherwise known as gay conversion therapy. Father praises himself as an uber Christian, but was caught stealing campaign donations for his first congressional race and used the money to pay his mortgage, credit card bills, and even fees for golf tournaments. Meet Mike and Karen, father and mother. They're just weird AF.
A boy's best friend is his mother.
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring.
Excited to see members of Congress incite violence against law enforcement, enjoy armed insurrections, and the big lie? If so, thank a MAGA Republican. If you think election results should only count when Republicans win, thank a MAGA Republican today. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Hi, I'm Laura Flanders of The Laura Flanders Show, where I interview the best thinkers and doers of our time. On TV, the show premieres Sundays at 11:30 Eastern on PBS World and at the Laura Flanders Show YouTube channel. You can join my guests and me every week there in the live viewing party, and then catch us all week on public television stations. Prefer to listen? Find us on a radio station near you or subscribe to the free podcast. You'll find listings and ways to subscribe at lauraflanders.org. That's also where you'll receive my regular commentaries. I call them the F word. Here's this week's. Here's a term that's messing with our thinking: election denier. As the midterm race enters its final weeks, that phrase is turning up in political reporting as if election deniers were some sort of naturally occurring demographic group like redheads. But election deniers weren't born like redheads or southpaws. They were bred. Ideas travel through people. And so when you read a New York Times poll like the one released recently that showed 41% of Republicans and 28% of all the registered voters they polled have little or no faith in the results of this year's elections, that's no accident. People spread that doubt with intent. Likewise, we sometimes blame technology for the spread of hateful content and ideologies online.
Fatality. This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Another major symbolic defeat for former President Donald Trump in the midterms, just as he's set to announce his third run for the White House. Democrat Katie Hobbs narrowly beating Republican Kari Lake for Arizona governor. Lake had been one of Mr. Trump's most prominent allies in the midterms and one of the staunchest supporters of his false claims denying the results of the 2020 election.
Do we love this man or what?
Oh, my God.
Lake continuing to question her own race's results last night, tweeting, "Arizonans know BS when they see it."
Agreed.
But there is no evidence of any fraud in the election, and the winner, Hobbs, ran on a message of trust in the electoral system. Ahead of his Mar-a-Lago speech, Mr. Trump's influence on the Republican Party is now under intense scrutiny, with many of the election-denying Republicans he supported falling short against Democratic opponents.
I think President Trump was an albatross on the electoral prospects of some of our candidates.
Overnight, the conservative Wall Street Journal editorial board writing that Democrats will be, quote, elated with Trump's announcement, adding, last week's elections showed that clinging to 2020 election denial, as Mr. Trump has, is a loser's game.
It is. It is. It's a losing message, okay? Election denial and that America can't have a free and fair election is a losing message. It's an anti-American, un-American message, and most Americans reject it, okay? They really believe that America is able to count votes. Now, I want to tell you, we still don't know who won Colorado, and Donald Trump's going to announce tonight, probably. I mean, it's crazy. It won't ever just, like, take a beat, take a breath, let us breathe, let us, feel good about defeating, a BS candidate like a Carrie Lake, who is a sycophant, or a Mike Pence, who is in love with the president who tried to have him hung, tried to have him killed so that he could not certify the results of an election that he lost. I mean, this is madness, right? But there's plenty of time to actually get back into it. Why can't we just take a breath? Because he is still coming at us. He is still coming at us, right? Lauren Boebert, we don't even know who won Colorado. We don't even know yet. And he's going to announce that he's running for... right now, for those of you who are, watching the Lauren Boebert congressional race, hoping that miscreant goes down in flames too, the way that Carrie Lake did, these election deniers have got to be, purged and stopped from being part of our power structure. So Lauren Boebert is still leading Adam Frisch, the upstart, challenger to a crazy Lauren Boebert by 1,122 votes. But there are still 5,000 votes out in that district, believe it or not. Mesa and Pueblo have 1,166 ballots that need curing, meaning that the signatures were left off or the signatures didn't match, according to the experts, right? And those are only 2 of the 27 counties that are in the Western Slope, Southern Colorado district. That is Lauren Boebert's currently. But also Friday, they stopped counting in that district because of Veterans Day. So Arizona continued counting, but Colorado didn't. So they're kind of a day behind. And of course, tomorrow is the last day to have your ballot cured, meaning if there was some missing information on your ballot or the signatures didn't appear to match the one on file, or you didn't have ID and you need to go bring your ID, well, please finish up by tomorrow, because tomorrow is the last day that you could cure your ballot in the district that is currently lorded over by Lauren Boebert. And then we still have the military and overseas, citizens that live abroad can vote in American elections, right? And so the military and overseas voters, if their ballots were postmarked by 7 o'clock in the evening on election day, they still have a couple of days to get their ballots counted. And then some of the larger counties have set aside 100 ballots or so. And the reason why they do that in Colorado is because they want to ensure anonymity to voters who vote in very, very tiny districts, really, really small counties, right? And so the Colorado Secretary of State actually realizes that people could kind of figure out who voted for whom because the counties are so small. And so to avoid that, they wait and hold on to about 100 ballots from larger counties, and they only count them with the smaller counties when they have all the smaller counties, right? And some of those ballots are still in transit because, like I said to the other caller who couldn't, in Tennessee, she couldn't figure out how does Carrie Lake get to vote in 3 different polling places? Because in Arizona, you can vote at any polling place as long as it's in your county. Colorado allows mail-in ballots and drop boxes anywhere in the state, and then they transit your ballot to the county or to the district that you're supposed to vote in. And so there are still ballots in transit. And so we don't know yet who won that election. But sure as crap, Donald Trump is going to start the grift and announce. And the reason why is because of the political action committees. He literally is going to raise another $100 million for political action committees like Save America First or whatever the hell he's calling. He's just not done stealing from you. He's just not done. And so that's kind of why he's going to do this. It's sad. but it's possible because of Citizens United. It's sad, but it's possible because we allow billions of dollars, unlimited amounts of money to go to political action committees, right? And once he's actually the nominee, or once he's actually announced as a candidate, he can't be in charge of the political action committee anymore. There's supposed to be separation between the candidate and the dark money and the political action committee. So he has picked a whole host of people to oversee two different political action committees, two different PACs, super PACs. It's sad and it's sick. And I just want Americans to realize this. Trump is not yet indicted for anything. But even if he is indicted, and the reason why he's not is because, the 60-day rule that the Department of Justice actually observes ahead of an election, it started again because of the Herschel Walker thing. It started again because there is a runoff in Georgia. And so until December 6th, until the runoff in Georgia, we're not going to see any indictments of Donald Trump. That's just the way it goes. That's sad, but true. So, but even if he was indicted, I want everybody to understand this. It isn't a barrier for him to not run for president. You can be an indicted criminal and run for president of the United States. I just want you to know that. It's true. The only qualifications for being president of the United States is that you have to be a U.S. citizen and 35 years old. That's it. That's it. There are no other qualifications. And so if he was an indicted felon, or if he was awaiting trial for felonies, or he could still be run for president. He could still be inaugurated. Yeah. Robert in Florida.
Hey, Randy. Hey, let me set this thing up at the front unloader. All right.
Okay.
Randy, listen, Donald Trump tonight is actually a brilliant move for him to run for president, because he's not really thinking he's going to win the presidency, because he knows he's lost those other two, right? He's doing it for his own vanity. He just wants to be relevant. He just wants to be heard, and I got, and Joe Biden, I got an idea. You said something about, getting some of those moderate people, maybe from New York State, to flip parties or become independents or something. I got a better idea. Joe Biden, because Republicans are scumbags, they'll take anything you give them. Give them an ambassadorship to the Fiji Islands or someplace nice. Just say, hey, go stay over there for 2 years. Come back when we got the house. Just stick it out of the box over here. That's all.
You want Joe Biden to be ambassador to Fiji?
No, I'm telling Joe Biden. Joe Biden tells these Congress people who are Republicans.
Now
you're on to me.
Okay, I get you. Yeah. No. Well, first of all, the reason why Trump's announcing tonight is because he's not done destroying the Republican Party. If he can't have it, nobody can. He's going to burn that party down to the ground. That's the result he wants. Make no bones about it. Be very clear. Either he becomes president of the United States again, or he burns down the GOP. Either way, he's a happy camper. As far as flipping some Republicans to the Democratic side, totally possible.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
911, what's your emergency?
America's healthcare system is broken, and people are dying.
Welcome to Code WAC, where we shine a light on America's callous healthcare system, how it hurts us, and what we can do about it. I'm your host, Brenda Gazar. This time on Code WAC, what are some of the possible dangers and pitfalls of Medicare Advantage plans? And how do they respond to patients' needs differently compared to traditional Medicare? To find out, we spoke to Dr. Ed Weisbart, a retired family physician and a national board member of Physicians for a National Health Program.
So when Medicare pays your claims, as it does in original or traditional Medicare, Parts A and B, that's their only job, is to pay your claims. They don't get in the way. They're not trying to make money off of you. You have Medicare as your health insurance. You go to the doctor or hospital that you want, and Medicare pays your claims. But if you have opted into Medicare Advantage, Medicare itself is no longer paying your claims at all. Instead, Medicare is paying an insurance company to pay your claims. And the insurance company, as we all learned from having employer-based insurance and other things, is really not out to just pay your claims. They're out to make money off of this. And so the more often they can avoid paying your claims or deny paying your claims or delay paying your claims or make it complicated for anybody to get a claim paid, the more they can do that, the more money they can make. So they're no longer really focused on you. They're now focused on their own profits. And that's completely different than having the government just pay your claims, than having Medicare pay your claims.
The full Code WAC story on ProgressiveVoices.com and on the PV app. Catch all our episodes by subscribing to Code WAC wherever you find your podcast. This podcast is powered by Heal California, a nonprofit that uplifts the voices of those fighting for healthcare reform around the country. Until next time, stay healthy.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
Definitely not a Republican wave, that's for darn sure.
Missing red wave in 2022 midterms is good news for the climate. Skyrocketing levels of climate warming methane, plus...
Don't be fooled. Prop 30 is being advertised as a climate initiative.
Mixed results for environmental ballot propositions.
All of those results and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Newsom's ultimate victory is likely to be a landslide, which, since this is California, will be followed by an earthquake and a wildfire.
True story. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, I'm happy to hear that the midterm elections were not a disaster for the climate.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of disasters, Florida is once again in trouble.
Yes, a rare November hurricane, Hurricane Nicole, made landfall on Florida's east coast overnight Wednesday as a Category 1. Fueled by record warm ocean waters, the sprawling, slow-moving storm has brought significant rain and flooding to storm-weary parts of Florida, still damaged by deadly Hurricane Ian a month ago. President Biden has approved emergency disaster relief for the state. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration warns in a new report this week that levels of powerful climate-warming methane continue to rocket up at record rates, with concentrations now more than